Real Talks with Rechie, take 6. Welcome, Pam.
Well, thank you for having me, Rechie. It's great to sit down with you. We don't get enough time to chat, and this is a great opportunity.
We absolutely don't. We were just talking about the first time we met. So we were at a rally in Oakville, no less, at one of my favorite drive-thrus where I spend a lot of time with the kids. And we were there getting together, and I just met the team, and right away I could hear how passionate you were about talking about the things that you're working on in the House of Commons. So it was really nice to meet you then and continue to work with you.
And you know what was really exciting on election night when I was following the results and I saw that you won. So look at you now. You're doing such good stuff. So
thank you.
It's really wonderful to be here with you.
Well, I wanted to kind of share this amazing work that you've done since 2015. You've been a parliamentary secretary for 3 different ministers, and you've done so much. And I know this is probably a tough question. I'd have a hard time answering this too, but I would love it if you can highlight, or share your highlights of, since 2015, the things that you are most proud of.
Yeah, it's actually not that hard. There's a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of government legislation I worked on, but getting funding for the Terry Fox Research Institute and the Marathon of Hope Cancer Centers, it was $150 million, and I worked on it from 2016 until it was announced in the federal budget in 2019. And I cried in the House of Commons, and Bill Morneau announced it, and it was because I knew how transformational it was going to be for people living with cancer. Mm-hmm. And to see it now taking shape and hearing the good things that they're doing it's just, I know it wouldn't have happened if I hadn't been here, Rechie. And it's for sure one of the the top 3. The other one was Kira's Law.
Yes.
And you were here for that one.
I was.
But Kira Kagan was killed by her father up at Rattlesnake Point, just right near us, just north of us. And her mom, Jennifer, approached me. She doesn't live in my riding, but she had been trying to deal with her own MP and hadn't been getting anywhere. And as Dillon put in her private member's bill about judicial education around coercive control and domestic violence, because Kira was allowed, or her dad was allowed, biological dad was allowed joint custody, even though he had, and the judge acknowledged the abuse against Kira's mom. Mm-hmm. And when he thought that he might be losing custody of her, he took her to Rattlesnake Point and killed himself and her. So the private member's bill is to educate judges, and again, just I hope that it will mean that nobody else goes through what Kira and her family have gone through.
So Kira's our angel.
Yes.
And what I love about what we do in this place, Pam, is the fact that we take stories like this, and it's not just about hearing those heartbreaking stories. It's like we can actually do something about it. And I think the power of this story that you just shared is you take her story and you turn it into something tangible that will be so meaningful and help others or prevent so many other deaths from happening in the future. You did that.
Oh,
so kudos to you.
I saw a quote last week, and it was, 1 death is a tragedy, 1,000,000 deaths is a statistic. And it was about how the power of one story makes people, it resonates with people. So, with cancer research, Terry Fox still resonates with people because it's one person's story. It's not the statistic that's, so many people die from breast cancer every year. All of those things are important, but when you bring it back to one person's story, I think it Canadians and MPs and cabinet ministers, I think it just resonates with people.
My kids do the walk every year, and when they do, we always reflect. We kind of take the time to not just talk about the fact, we're going to go walk for Terry Fox, but it's the purpose, the cause, and what he stood for. And my kids are so connected to his story, which is so very powerful, even though many years have passed.
Yeah.
So thank you for keeping that alive.
You're welcome.
So another reason why I wanted to have this conversation with you is because something that's broken my heart and many others here on the Hill is the fact that you decided and you made the choice for yourself to resign and step away from this world. And I hope you don't mind if you can take the time to share, because there's some people who still don't know that you're stepping away, but more importantly, the reason why you're stepping away.
Well, thank you for letting me share, because I think I have found the whole atmosphere has become incredibly toxic in the House of Commons, in committee, but also in our communities, and where we used to be having conversations with people who disagreed with us, it's now turned to threats and, threats against myself, my family, and my staff. And it's not how we as Canadians should be conducting ourselves. I think it's important that we have disagreements, but we need to disagree agreeably. And, I think I've noticed a huge change, and just, it's not for me anymore. And I admire so many people like yourself, Rechie, who are sticking it out and are going to go there. I still believe so strongly in what our government is doing and the good work that we've done for Canadians, but it's just not for me anymore. And so I'm stepping away. And I think, a lot of people, I don't think I'm the first MP to step away for these reasons, but I think a lot of times people will say I'm stepping away to spend more time with my family. And when I told the Prime Minister, I said, I'm not going to say that. I'm going to give the actual reason why. And yeah.
I'm sighing because this year alone, not just yourself, but at multiple levels of government, women have made the same decision as you did to step away for the same reasons. And it literally breaks my heart, because I and we want to encourage women to still continue to step up, to still continue to say, yes, you can be the voice for your community. And one of the nuggets I kind of want to talk about is when people are online, I don't think they realize the consequence to a like, a comment, a reshare that can come across negative, because you're just there, you press a button and it seems innocent, or it might be done with purpose.
Yeah, I think it's both. I think there are some people that share it without thinking, but I also have noticed, I mean, we were talking about this before, the gun lobby I have been a target of since 2017. And when I announced I was resigning, they shared my statement and said, once again, Pam Damoff is being a cry bully, boo-hoo kind of thing. And sure enough, as soon as they do that, all of the gunnies start contacting me or commenting, and they seem to think, and have said this committee, that I'm just upset about mean tweets. It's far beyond mean tweets, and Rechie, I you know what I'm talking about, right? This is misogyny, it's threats, it's absolutely horrific messages that get sent to me, and a lot of times I find the worst ones are sent as DMs because they're harder to report, and I think some of it is innocent, and it's not just the gun lobby. I have, some of the messages that have come into my office have been directly after a Conservative MP posted something on social media from ethics committee, and then said reach out to, and then posted our email addresses. And my staff member at the time created a subfolder called misogyny because of the hundreds, if not over 1,000 emails that we got in direct response to that social media share by a Conservative member. So it was definitely, I have noticed at committee, Conservative members are looking at the camera. They're not looking at a witness because they're trying to get a clip to share. And it does rage farm, and it does direct anger at Liberal MPs and opposition, other MPs, I should say, because it's not just Liberal MPs, it's also NDP that get this.
The intimidation, it sounds like intimidation tactics. If you were purposefully doing something, almost to like create the clickbait that then intimidates someone like yourself or someone that they're trying to target. This sounds exactly like an intimidation tactic, which is harassment in my opinion, and it's unnecessary in this space. We've had many opportunities where we've had dialogue, and it's been healthy debates. I've seen it, but to get to this point where that's what social media and politics has become is really, really unfortunate.
I was on the Public Safety Committee almost the whole time I was an MP, so from 2015 up until this past September. And we did really hard work. The first 4 years we were here, I think we passed 20 bills.
Wow.
And did not always agree. But I believe that the input from the other parties actually made that legislation better. We did the first unanimous report out of that committee in 10 years was on mental health of public safety officers. We worked together, and that dialogue meant that we were producing better legislation and better studies. Now it's all about gotcha moments and how can we get that clip. And I just don't think that the conversation is nearly as productive. And I don't think most Canadians like this. I think there is a lot of intimidation. I've heard it when I've spoken to groups and then asked if they'll appear as a witness, and they're afraid to. We're stifling democracy when people are being intimidated not to appear at committees because they're afraid of what will happen if they express their opinion.
So with my background, I came from corporate banking. I also had my own share of harassment experiences, which I'll never forget. And coming into this world, I was worried and concerned. My parents, my husband, they were concerned that I would also experience the same thing. And unfortunately, I do too. Not just as a woman. I think I get it probably worse or more because I'm also a racialized woman. And just like yourself, I'm concerned about my team because they have to read. They read every single email. They take it all in.
Answer the phone calls.
They have to respond. And they do it for us.
Yeah.
And it's not just us, it's our team. And I think the part that hits us in particular much harder is our families.
100%.
Because the minute you go and you're just serving the country, and we're doing it the best way we know how. But the minute you involve someone you love and care about, your children, your spouse, or others, it is scary. And why do we do it? I go back to what you shared with Kira's Law. We're here because we're here to serve and make our country better. That's why we're doing this. And that's why we will continue to step up and show up. And I respect that you are stepping away. But I honestly, Pam, we're going to miss out. We're the ones that are missing out.
Thank you. Well, it's, I've been doing this since 2015, and it's hard, right? And it's my son is grown now, but it doesn't mean it doesn't impact him. Yeah. And for me, it's time. I just have so much admiration for you. And I remember Sean Fraser saying to me one time, he doesn't get the same kind of stuff that I do. And you're absolutely right. Like as a racialized woman, it's even worse. Yeah. And it's not just in Canada either. I did a podcast recently for BBC with a woman from the UK and from France. The stories were so similar.
Yes.
And there was a video that I screened in Ottawa a couple years ago called Misogyny in the Digital Age, and it was about a woman from Italy, one from the US, and all similar stories. And one of them had chosen, the US woman had chosen to leave, and to leave the community where she lived because she was afraid for her life. And it's, I do think that, I think Parliamentary Protective Services is doing a lot, but I just don't think people recognize the kind of threats that MPs are getting, and or taking them as seriously as they should. And I'm always disturbed when I get from people, well, you should just have thick skin. It's not about having thick skin. It's about feeling safe, and your family feeling safe. And I if there's one good thing that's coming of this, is that at least we're talking about it.
And speaking of which, you were able to join the House of Commons committee to be able to share your testimony and your insight to improve our workplace policies. I was wondering if you could share some of the things that you had recommended to us.
That was hard.
Oh.
That was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. And I appeared with Ikra Khalid, and I was so glad Ikra was there with me. But I think I think all MPs need to think long and hard about the kind of things they're posting on social media. And I say that for every party. I think we need to think about the kind of posts that we're putting out into the universe. We actually do work across party lines, and we need to talk about that. I think Canadians want us to work together. They don't, I think the vast majority of Canadians are good, decent people who want to see their government and their elected representatives working together for Canadians, like we did at the start of COVID, right? You saw people coming together. And I think, I really think that there needs to be some accountability for the kind of things that are put out there. And while MPs are not directly threatening other MPs necessarily, they are aware of the kind of rage farm that they can create that ends up being directed to MPs. And Ikra is a good example of someone who has, she talked, her experiences were far worse than mine, honestly. But that appearance was hard. I'll be interested to see what happens with the report. But the statistics from the House of Commons about the increase in threats was really frightening. And the fact that we're having to put all these resources into monitoring social media and having staff to do security audits, and it's necessary, unfortunately, but it's a sad reflection of where we are.
I think the stats that I read was since 2019, there's an 800% increase for, targets and threats to members of parliament. And I think the number went from the teens to 570. It was a large number. And this is, the good news is it's being tracked now. And at least there's a mechanism to help us better understand maybe the source of the threats. But I think if we talk about going forward and maybe what we can do, I'd really love to hear what can we do to continue to encourage women, because we don't want this to be the thing that prevents someone from even
So this has been the best job I've ever had in my life. I don't know how you feel, Rechie. I imagine you feel the same, other than being a mom.
Yeah.
But by far, this has been the best thing. And you don't supply Kleenex for but the things that I've been able to accomplish will long outlive me. When we were working on getting the funding for Terry Fox Research Institute, I had a young staffer working for me, Connor, who did a ton of work on it. I said, Connor, you're going to be able to sit in your rocking chair when you're a grandpa and say, you know what? We had the roadmap to cure cancer, and now little grandson or granddaughter, look at where we are today. And it was because I was here. So for anybody thinking of running, it is just such an incredible privilege, and you're able to make such a difference in the lives of Canadians. And I look at the National Child Care Program. When I had my son, we got 3 months mat leave.
Wow.
And I almost didn't go back to work because daycare was so expensive. I was really lucky to have a boss. I worked in real estate investment banking. I had a boss who was incredibly generous and with both my salary and the time I was able to take off work, but paying for childcare was an incredible burden. We've made a difference in that, and we're seeing that with the number of women. So we can make absolutely transformational change. And so, for any woman thinking of running, I would just say it is 100% worth it. And I do think that we need to be calling out the behavior and not be intimidated by the bullies that are out there.
All the policies you talked about that we've been able to implement that have been empowering women to be able to go back to work or even start a business, all the things you referred to is because we have a cabinet that I'm very proud of, which is a gender parity cabinet. And that's a differentiator, because all the policies we always keep in mind how it affects or impacts women, how it impacts the 2S LGBTQI plus community and many other racialized communities. And that's been transformational. So because of this and this alone, we need to make sure to continue to encourage women to still continue to be at the table, especially the decision-making tables.
Yeah, and when people say, "Oh, it's just a number making 50% of the cabinet," when you talk to businesses, and Rechie, I know you do that all the time in your role, right, in cabinet. When you talk to businesses, they talk about how when they have women at the table, they're actually making better decisions. And it's not because, it's because women are bringing different perspectives and they're bringing different skill sets. I remember Irving Shipbuilding appearing at Status of Women Committee talking about how they had a program to get women into welding, and it meant they were building better ships because the women were better at the fine motor skills and the men were better at gross motor skills. So by hiring more women and raising the percentage, they actually were building a better product. And I hear that, I bet you do too, from businesses all the time.
Absolutely. Through our Women Entrepreneurship Knowledge Hub, it is statistically proven that women have more sustainable businesses because we're much more cognizant of our impacts of our business to the environment. How do we ensure that we're not negatively impacting climate and furthering or worsening the impacts of climate change? So women are just much more cognizant. But to your point, we need the diverse voices, period. And I mean, again, like Pam, thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I'm sure I speak on behalf of all my colleagues when I say thank you for everything you've done since 2015. You're almost there. You've got still another little ways to go, but thank you. We're all very proud of the work you've done.
Oh, thank you.
And again, like anytime you want to come by Ottawa, you know what I mean? Like you always have a place here and a home with us.
Thank you. And you know what? I'm passing the mantle off, Rechie, so it's over to you to keep doing all this good stuff and keep speaking out and just keep being you and be the strong, incredible Filipino woman that you are.
Thank you, Pam. I appreciate it. I'm giving you a hug now. Oh, thank you.
And I'm never doing this again without Kleenex.
I tried. I should. You know what I thought? I should have thought about it. Oh, thank you so much.